Hello and welcome to another special edition of Powertalk, Rising Above Recession. I'm Liane Morejon. In our previous edition, we talked about the best ways to go about finding a job and using your strengths and experience to go and get the most out of your career hunting experience. But what should you do in the meantime? What is the best way to budget your money in this tough economic climate when job loss or other factors may be affecting your financial life? Here to help us become a little more money savvy is licensed clinical psychologist Dr. Rosalind Smith and Maisa Williams, financial literacy coordinator for the Human Services Coalition. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Maisa, give me a little bit of your background and your work with the Human Services Coalition.
Prior to joining the Human Services Coalition, I became a licensed mortgage broker, and I work with several financial gurus. And then after joining the Human Services Coalition, I became their financial literacy coordinator and certified in various curriculums with different banks such as Wachovia, Money Smart Curriculum, as well as HSBC, Your Money Counts.
So tell me a little bit about what the responsibilities of, as a financial literacy coordinator, what are you responsible for doing?
As a financial literacy coordinator, I'm responsible for going into the community, giving various trainings on financial literacy, basically educating the community on what financial literacy is, providing them financial literacy education, as well as allowing them to be aware of the impacts of financial illiteracy.
So you're basically giving people the tools that they need to make sound financial decisions, at least to know, what different things mean and different terminologies mean. Is that right? Okay. So Dr. Smith, tell me, in this tough economic time, just as in a psychological point of view, what does that specific aspect, how does that affect people?
Well, I think it can be summed up in one word, and that is stress, certainly, for people who are dealing with financial difficulties, and as we discussed in the previous segment, sometimes job loss and financial difficulties. But I think what's important to know is that even during these times of stress, there are things that can be done to work your way out of whatever financial situation you're in, as Maisa and your later guest will also be discussing. And I think it also is important to realize that in the midst of situations like this, we also need to take a step back to look at how our own decisions, our decision making, particularly our financial decision making, contributed to the situations we're in. Certainly there have been societal and political, financial, global pressures that have, on huge scales, that have brought us all to where we are right now. But typically, if people really do the hard work of looking inside and saying, wait a minute, did I really need that $2,000 handbag, or did I really need that night out in the stretch Hummer, they'll say, well, no. And should I have done it? Probably not if I put it on my credit card. Mm-hmm. Undoubtedly not. So there's a very real possibility for introspection and understanding our true motivations in terms of what leads us to make certain financial decisions. And that really needs to be done.
Dr. Smith, you've been noted as saying that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
That's right.
So what does that mean in terms of financial planning and, managing your money soundly?
Well, it actually ties into the point I was just making, and that is that if we don't take the time to stop and understand what has motivated financial decision making from the $2 cup of coffee, can you still get a cup of coffee for $2? I don't think so. But from the basic everyday expenditures to the bigger expenditures, whether it just needs or wants, if we don't take time to take a look at what has motivated those decisions along the way, we are destined to repeat the behavior. And that's true not just in financial decisions, but it is almost a dead certainty that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior if we don't stop and understand why we have engaged in that past behavior in the first place. It is critical we do that where this financial climate is concerned and where people's financial circumstances are concerned, because even if one develops the tools, takes the tools that will be discussed here today and builds on those and digs their way out, they are pretty much destined to get themselves right back where they were, because once they hit a place of less stress, they'll start saying, well, you know what? I don't know exactly how I'm going to pay for it, but I can go out and buy that whatever it is for each of us. I can go ahead and make those credit card expenditures again. I got myself out one time, I can do it again. Well, guess what? You got yourself into big trouble once or more times, and you will do that again. And maybe next time not be as fortunate in terms of being able to command the resources to pull yourself out.
But Maisa, is it too late to be able to change, if you have developed bad habits, is it too late ever to change them?
It's never too late.
That's right.
Never.
So tell me, what is one of the most important things that people should consider when you start making a budget for yourself or your household?
When you make a budget for yourself or your household, primarily you should consider your needs versus your wants. You can determine what are the fixed expenses and what's flexible. The fixed expenses should be your needs. The flexible should be your wants. A budget is basically an expense sheet, and it also includes your income. So you know the different expenses that you have and what you have coming in. That way you can budget out what you can afford, and the things that you may want, you may not be able to afford. So you know that can either be a flexible expense that you can add and subtract month to month if you want to adjust your budget.
Right. So this can change, obviously, if if someone in your household has lost a job and you don't have some of that income coming in. What are some of the things that people should do to adjust?
In order to adjust, you should keep receipts every month. That way you know what you're currently spending, and that way if you have a loss of income, whether it's due to injury or job loss, you can then adjust your budget by taking out some of the wants. The weekly trips to the movies or different outings or weekly manicures, haircuts, those are wants. We don't necessarily need them. So those are simple things that can be cut out. You can also downgrade. If you have 2 cars or you have an SUV, you might want to downgrade to a compact car or 1 car since you have less income. So there's different things that you can do with your budget in order to adjust to a 1-income household.
So really it's taking the time to kind of evaluate your lifestyle and, make some sacrifices and maybe get rid of those little luxuries that people get used to.
Yes, definitely.
And I know, Maisa, when we've worked together before, I've heard you say that a budget isn't a one-time situation. It's a flexible, fluid tool to continue modifying as one's situation changes.
Definitely, because sometimes it's not job losses. It may be simply hour cuts or wage cuts.
Right.
So if you have the monthly expenses, which budgets are usually done by individuals and families on a monthly basis, if you know next month your employer has already forewarned you that there will be pay cuts, you can already adjust your budget for next month, totaling to the cuts.
Okay. So when it comes to either paying off debt or investing or saving money, and you do have money, which one of those things takes, precedence over the other? Where should one start?
I believe that one should start saving, because you never know what the future holds, and if you save, that way you can have an emergency fund or extra cash for emergencies. That way if anything does happen, if you have money that you have invested, there's a process to get that money out, whether it's a 401k or 403b or stocks and bonds, and chances are there may be tax penalties. So you want to first start by saving.